everybody. I just want to let you know that this video was originally put on Instagram, and people love to report stuff that they don't feel is important, or they don't like what's being said, or they feel offended by it, or they feel as if it's a threat to them. This, I think, is one of those videos. So I am re-uploading it now to YouTube, and this is part one of a very important conversation I had with a young trans woman of 18 years old. That's all I'm going to say right now, because I really value Scarlett's voice, and I value this particular conversation a lot. I hope you value it as much as I do, and I hope that you hear what I hear and take from it what you need and or not. But I would like to say this before we move on here. It's important that we stop trying to silence people you do not agree with. That is not the way things will change in this country or in this world or in this universe. We must start to have hard conversation. We must start to hear other voices within the transgender and transsexual communities. There is no one way of anything. There is a huge difference between all of us. And that being said, this conversation is important to me as well as Scarlett, and I sure hope it's important to you. Thanks for watching. Hi, Scarlett.
Hi, how are you?
Excited that you're here.
Yeah.
I feel like we know each other forever.
Yeah, we've been texting for a minute. Okay.
For a minute.
Hey, I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry. Everyone here is going to be here this morning, is going to love you, is going to respect you, and you don't worry about that. You are in a hugely safe space here. Everyone who follows me is very respectful. You know that.
Yeah. I've done that for a while.
Yeah, that's why you're here. You're here because the universe wants you to be here, and you are such a beautiful person to give yourself to. It makes me cry because we don't have this in our community, and you're creating what I want to see, which is love and compassion. So,
well, it's funny. I was listening to some of your like live talks this morning because I wanted to have an idea of what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And said, put out into the universe what you didn't get, something like that. Right. And kind of what I'm doing. Like when I was looking for information in the trans community, I didn't really get anything that was like actually held weight to it. It was mostly just the everything's you're doing you, it's all ethereal, blah 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 blah. And now I'm experiencing like medical issues from the hormones that I was on. I have over the years, but like my endo wouldn't talk to me about it. He would act like why are you asking me these questions? This isn't my specialty. And then he would referrals to doctors who would actually see me. So like I'm 18 years old and I've barely had medical care since I was 13.
No, look, my friend, not okay. And why you are a fucking gift to all of us, and every single person out there and beyond needs to know what you're about to do is so powerful. You're vulnerable. You're putting yourself in a space to be. People say things to you. You're actually giving back something that not a lot of people will do today. And so what you're doing is so fucking powerful. I love you forever for it, because it takes, for a lack of a better expression, big balls.
Yeah.
To do that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, where I'm at, it's kind of gotten to a situation where I have nothing to lose. So
that's right. That's right. So let's go forward. And really, this is about you. It's not about me. So what I want to do is just lead you into who you are. Why don't you just start us off with what you started doing early on in your transition?
Early on, I didn't really come from a great background. You know, growing up, I had a history of like misdiagnosis, like in psychiatry when I was a kid, because because I liked boys as a kid when I was very young, and I was always kind of feminine. I wouldn't say that I was like the stereotype. I wasn't like putting on women's clothing or anything.
Okay.
But I was just feminine, and I liked guys, and they all said that I was confused, and they paired that up with anxiety, and I had a misdiagnosis for autism as a kid that didn't hold weight as I got older.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, growing up, I'd been put. So I started out fine in school, and I was put into special ed, and they were very abusive.
Special ed? So why were they putting you in special ed? Because you were different, or I don't.
Yeah, because when you're different, that was one of the signs at the time. This was in like 2003 to 2006.
Okay.
So
you were 13 years old then?
no, this was when I was a kid. This is my background.
Oh, so how old were you then? You remember how old you were when you started getting diagnosed? Were you you were under 13?
I was a kid when I was diagnosed with other things.
That's okay. You're right. Okay, right. Okay. So they started diagnosing you with all kinds of things because they didn't know what was wrong with you.
And treating me for them, and that didn't impact my mind well growing up, but it really caused me to retreat to myself as a kid. So I didn't really have a life until I was 13. No normal schooling, no anything. I would always go from school to school because they had this thing of trying to interfere with my mom, like take her to court. He didn't want going to abusive teachers. They would yell at me, call me worthless. I think some of them were mad that I was gay, and I would be called like homophobic slurs, and they would didn't teach me anything for like half of my life.
Wow. Can I ask you what state you're in, or where this is happening?
Michigan. I'm in Michigan, and this was all the public school system.
Public school, Michigan. Okay. Right.
West Michigan.
So that's horrible. So as you moved forward in your life, did you start diagnosed as a trans person?
Yep. As I had approached puberty, I had spent most of my life inside alone. I started to get uncomfortable with my body as I had approached puberty, and it had gotten kind of extreme because, at that age is when you start really noticing other people, and I started to feel like it went from like starting to want to be attractive to knowing that at the time, and the awkwardness of puberty and that uncomfortability. I kind of fixated on that.
Yeah.
And it got worse and worse very quickly. Very quickly. And eventually I had stumbled across transgender stuff online.
Oh, interesting. You see Tranpa go, yeah. I see. Because it's the cherry. Yeah, I will say it all the time. It's the cherry. Did you feel sort of led into that? When you found it, here's what I want to ask you. When you found it online, tell me about how you felt.
When I had found it, the way that it was being presented was like this was a way to become somebody else. Mm-hmm. So that's really what I feel like attracted me at the time, because I had a lot of internalized homophobia. I'd come from a religious background. I was not in a good situation at all. I had no real good therapy. Mm-hmm. It was all pretty bad. And I had come out to my mom as transgender very quickly, like within 2-3 months. Mm-hmm. And she had put me off, like put that on pause for like 8 months. She was doing the right thing, or trying to.
Yeah. Thank you.
But in that time, because I had that fixation, the more that I would focus on things like my voice or my skin or my facial structure, it started to feel worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And eventually I had gotten into gender counseling within like 8 or 9 months
Okay.
out.
Okay.
And my first appointment, I went in there and I told her about all of this from my childhood and, how I felt and all of that. But she cared more for if I wanted long hair, how feminine clothes felt on me
Wow.
versus clothes felt on me. How I saw myself in my dreams. That was the question she asked me.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
If that means anything, I think lots of people have dreams of being something. I have dreams of being a fucking lion and a tiger.
right.
Wow.
And yeah, and as I was talking to her about like my past and not feeling good enough, and really I just wanted to be attractive because I felt like I couldn't be loved.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna make me cry because I know. I think a lot of us have. You don't even need to be trans to have that same. We all want love. And we don't feel that we're attracted, but I think taking it up a notch with trans people, right? We want to look a certain way so people see us a certain way, and that's the part where, especially at your age. So this is all going on at what age? Where you're having internalized turmoil.
I've had that's why I went into my background, because that's really been my life. I didn't come from a good background, and I've had all of this internalized turmoil for a while, and this comes from therapy because in the past, when I was a kid, I had suicidal thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was nothing related to my gender,
Mm-hmm.
but she had taken that and twisted it on my mom's session.
Okay.
Seemed like I was trying to kill myself as a kid because I wasn't allowed to be a girl. And she said, because you didn't recognize this, that was another thing. My suicidal thoughts were misdiagnosed as voices. That was one of the fights that I went through as a kid because they wanted to medicate.
Trying to give you a psychosis or something, right? Like schizophrenia or something, or they say you have voices in your head?
Because my dad has it. So my suicidal or depression or whatever throughout my life, when I try to seek help, is diagnosed as psychosis.
Oh my God. Wow. So I'm really fascinated by this a gender therapist. So a gender therapist is somebody you go to talk about your gender, and they're supposed to figure out, is
But
that a gender therapist?
it's a therapist who specializes in transgender identity.
Dan- Dangerous right there, because I'm just going to say this real quick. Right there, you're going to a therapist who's not supposed to. Therapists are supposed to help you find your space. So if you're going to a gender therapist and all they know is transgender, what do you think they're going to be telling you the whole time you're in therapy?
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's what they connected pretty much every struggle I went through to was trans.
And that's right. And they were blaming your mom on some of the stuff?
Well, they were guilt tripping her. They told
wow.
her that when I was a kid, the reason that I had those like thoughts was because of them not seeing who I was.
That's right.
He told them that they had already waited too long by making me go through some of puberty, and they don't have much time left to get to transition without.
So they're scaring your parents. They're scaring your parents into this idea that if you don't take hormone blockers at this point, or you don't start to transition, you are going to kill yourself. Is that basically what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do you think your parents felt?
Oh, my mom was in tears.
And she felt pushed against the wall because she doesn't know anything about anything. And she's relying on your therapist and your doctors to give her the proper information. And they're not giving proper information, or any parents at this point. They're forcing parents to say, if you don't take hormone blockers with your child right now, you're going to kill your child. I'm a parent, my friend. You know that. I would die if someone said that to me. I would die. I would be like, what? So, I mean, wow, you have to send your mom some love from me, because I can't even imagine what your mother was going through with you both. It's horrifying. So, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Let's keep going. So fascinating and beautiful. And I just love that you're sharing this. So, okay, so now you're at the therapist and they're pushing you towards blockers?
They were, but blockers at the time weren't paid for by insurance because this was back in 2016.
That's right. Okay.
So, and we really wanted to stunt my growth because my dad is 6'4", and I had a fear of growing up, I guess, and I didn't want to reach that.
Okay. Okay. Because, you know, they're tall women, right? I have a lot of friends who are tall women, by the way. And it kind of places you outside of the norm. So they don't want you to be tall. So they're going to stunt your growth.
Yeah, kind of what I was focusing on. Because, like, I'm feminine, obviously, and I like guys. So I was, like, I feel like I was comparing myself to my female peers, rather.
That's right. You were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It caused me to fixate on some things. But yeah, I couldn't get blockers at first, so they started me on hormones. And that was within 3 or 4 therapy sessions.
And how old are you at this point when they started giving you estrogen?
13. It only took like a month or 2.
So a month or 2 in your therapist at 13, and all of a sudden you can't get blockers, so instead they're going to give you hormone treatment, HRT.
I started hormones in August of 2016.
And you were 1 month in the therapy office after you started taking what's so insanely under-researched. We have no idea what's going to happen when a 13-year-old little starts to put an opposite sex hormone in their body. Yet here's a doctor who's an actual doctor telling you that this is going to be okay for you. So,
well, and they were kind of leading me to trying to frame like my anxieties and my depressions, things that I've dealt with my whole life. We're trying to frame it all around gender. And when you're already fixated on your looks and a gender, that really confuses you.
Oh my God, I'm confused. I'm confused for you at 50-fucking-8. And you're 13. You are so goddamn vulnerable at 13. Not only you, but your parents. Everybody in that situation is relying on who? The fucking therapist.
Well, we're vulnerable because, like, I brought up my past because that's an important role, because my mom has been protecting me all my life. We've been looking for a way to help find me treatment, to help me find that happiness, I guess.
No, she was. Your mother loves you. I don't know your family, but I'm going to tell you right now, if your mother was willing to go to that space, she loves you. Whether you, I don't know. You have. Sorry?
I said she's really the only person that I have, like, legitimately, because, like, going through all of this, I mean, doctors wouldn't talk to me. They didn't keep up to make sure that I had therapy. So after I stopped seeing the gender therapist, I would try to see other therapists, but they wouldn't really talk to me about my confusion or anything like that. And when I talk about my past, because I was already transitioning, they wanted to frame everything around me being trans again. So I couldn't really explore the root of anything, which was why I went to therapist. I wanted to understand why I had this discomfort. I didn't really want to jump into everything right away.
That's right. But they immediately diagnosed you as trans. They immediately pigeonholed you into one space without giving you the freedom to find your space. I'm going to tell you again, my friend, you are powerful right now, because this is what I keep trying to tell the world. And I need you. We need you. We need you to be saying these things, because not all kids are trans. Some kids are just trying to find their fucking space. But when you immediately say, oh, well, you just feel like a boy or a girl, which every kid has some fucking weird shit going on, then you are pigeonholing a kid so fast, so furiously, that they aren't finding their space, and you're putting them into a false space. So, wow, it boggles my mind, because I don't understand how we could be doing this to children not focused on who they are. They think they know who they are, like we all do. So,
well, especially when you're already, like, when you're a gender non-conforming kid, who, like, I feel like we're kind of forgotten now, because non-conforming is like just considered like, oh, well, you're just non-binary. And that's
right. That's that your identity now? Are you identifying as?
And And that's another part of the issue. Like, since transitioning, and I have tried to get out, I've tried to enroll myself in school, I try to get jobs, but like, I'm in a progressive area and none of my peers will talk to me because they're afraid of offending me.
Wow.
I tried to enroll into the GSA, and because my experience wasn't really, I mean, I'm still in a weird place, but my experience, I never really understood the idea of gender identity, because for me, more just like, well, I have feminine mannerisms and I like guys, so it just makes more sense for me to be pretty, right?
No, I hear you. It's like me. Oh, I kind of start liking guys. Do I have to look really super masculine in
Yeah.
order to? And no, it's, that's all the socialization. That's all the social baggage we take on as trans people and as people. All people deal with that, not just trans people. Look at women today. Just women have to deal with looking a certain way in order to be pretty or to be, a fashion model or whatever the fuck. We're so inundated with these ideas of how to look or how to be. And so you were just an effeminate little person. That's what you were. And whether you were a boy or a girl, you were just a person who expressed themselves in a way that wasn't average or normal. Me too. So we got pushed into these spaces because we were not being like everyone. Yet they didn't give you the opportunity to grow into your space. They just,
like, I was robbed of my self-discovery.
That's right. That's right. And you say that, my friend. You scream that to the fucking world because they did that to you. And it is not okay. And they're doing it today to more kids at that age.
Younger than me.
Younger than you. What? I mean, you. So you, as a person who has gone through all this and are not necessarily so happy about it, you must be like just sitting back going, what the fuck is happening?
Well, yeah, because how can you know that you have gender dysphoria if you haven't hit puberty yet?
That's right.
Started to like grow those features, because like growing the features and it was like whatever until I hyper focused on them, and it became a problem once I started worrying about like what other people thought.
Right. That's right. So see, they gave you those tools to have anxiety. They gave you those tools to just think about it. They gave you all of these tools and this language in order to create a bigger anxiety. They're giving kids today. When you say stuff like kids will kill themselves if they don't transition. You don't think the kids hear that? I say shit all the time in my house. I have an 8-year-old, and I think he's all the way across the house. Next thing you know, he comes to me, he's like, hey, Dad, what's this about? And I'm like, oh, fuck, he totally heard me. So kids can hear everything. You don't think they take that on and they use that language, and they're like, I'm going to kill myself if I don't transition. They're hearing that from the adults.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
I was already kind of in a suicidal spot when I was going. It was like,
sure.
That is like, well, this is a solution to that. I can become somebody else, and then my trauma or whatever is not there.
That's right.
How I had focused on it in the beginning, and time that started to fade. As I was, because I wasn't, as I was saying, like I wasn't really accepted into the community because my experience didn't really follow like what's said. So they spread rumors about me. It was horrible. I had to drop school, and I don't really get hired much around here because people are walking on eggshells around me constantly, and I haven't had any peer association growing up, which my endos encouraged.
That's right.
Enroll me in high school to get me socialized. He had her step out of the room, like very seriously, and was interrogating me on whether or not I was being like abused. Like,
oh my God! So they were separating you from your mom to see if, on some level, your mother or whoever at your home was abusing you, and that's your problem.
Get me socialized, and they thought that socializing a trans kid would, because you would get bullied, so they think it's better to isolate you in 4 walls for years.
That is not okay. It's actually the worst thing to do, to isolate anybody, because then your brain starts going crazy. I mean, look at all right now, there's a ton of kids out there who are isolated. COVID happened, and then they're trying to transition. They're not around anybody. They only have the internet.
Imagine COVID, but for 5 years.
That's right. That's right. I feel you, my friend. Breaking my heart. I feel you and I hear you and I see you and it's breaking my heart. And you're a representation of a lot of other kids that are going through the same shit through. But we don't about it. We're not talking about it. There's kids isolated in homes right now who are so out of their minds because we're not having the social. Your doctor was right. You need to be social through transition. You need to be hanging out with other people, not trans people necessarily, but just socializing with humans. It is
exactly.
So, yeah.
Which was part of my point. But my arguments as a kid, you're a kid, so what you're saying on these topics is I guess it doesn't matter unless it leads to.
That's right. It's money. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I just want to say that I love you a lot. And I think a lot of people out there are really going to reach you after this because you're being so vulnerable and so open about something that people don't want to talk about. So again, I just want to keep saying that to you because I want you to keep knowing how important what you're doing is so huge and so powerful. And so now how old are you? And you started going on the hormones. You were around 13?
I was 13 years old, almost 14 when I went on hormones. And I was 14 years old when I got my puberty blocker implant in my arm.
Oh, so it's an implant.
Mm-hmm. It was the Suprelin.
Okay.
Kind that they send out for early puberty.
Right. They use that for people who have early puberty, right? Like precocious puberty. Precocious. Right. So it's made for trans kids. It's made for people who are having precocious puberty.
It's for trans kids by the World Health Organization. I've come to learn last week.
Just wow.
Actually, so I'm in Southwest Michigan, so I hope, God, I don't know if I want to,
don't do anything
for my hormones. And I'm sorry. I'm kind of nervous by
No, this is very vulnerable space you're in right now. Take your time, my friend. You're not in any rush. And whatever you don't want to talk about, don't talk about it. But I'm going to bring you on again. People are going to ask me to bring you on again. I can already feel. So it's okay. Whatever we need to talk about today and whatever you need to do to put yourself out there, I just want the world to see you and I want the world to hear you because you have an actual lived experience. I'm not a doctor. I'm not talking to some parent who doesn't know. I'm talking to an actual living human being who went through something that I don't think is appropriate. And so I think you on some level feel the same way I do.
Yeah, because the whole time I was going through this, I would ask them, what are the side effects of this? And, they told me that the puberty blocker was completely safe, that there are no adverse side effects. After I was on it for a while, it castrates you.
Yeah.
So
it does.
Yeah. So, stop developing in every way, including mentally and emotionally, which I didn't know.
So it stops the growth of your genitals. It stops the growth of your brain. Most importantly, above and beyond anything else, I read a study yesterday where they did a study of a kid. He's I think 10 or 11. They put him on blockers. Within 3 months, his IQ went down 20%.
Yeah, I can see that. That's how I feel. Incredibly distressing. It feels like you're frozen in time.
Oh God.
I'm kind of a goth, so all the Vampire Chronicles, and it was like being frozen in a child's body.
Wow.
And I'm still there because I got it taken out when I was 16 because it was too distressing for me. I had a breakdown and had to be checked into a mental hospital.
Okay.
That was another really horrible experience. But after I got out of there, I had it taken out when I was 16, and
then what? Did you feel like all of a sudden you felt bad? So wait a minute though, your genitals have already been sort of not producing testosterone, so that went away. But then what happens when you stop taking the blockers? Does things start growing again?
No, because you're on estrogen.
That's right. They just
yeah, on the blockers, I'd lost muscle, like severe muscle atrophy.
What?
My
side effect,
like all day, every day, and they shrank away within like a few weeks. And he said that I wasn't working them. But
did he tell you to work them?
He did,
okay.
And he wasn't addressing that. He just would say, whatever. And
wow. So basically, your body on some level atrophied because you're not using everything. Plus, you're also draining muscle mass.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. So what about your brain? Tell me about that. How did you feel, like, thought-wise? Like,
on the block, I felt frustrated because it was like being trapped in a child's body. So, like, your sexuality functions differently. Like, you don't really get aroused the same.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And it just didn't feel right. And in my brain, it pauses your sexuality in time. So I was frozen with sexuality, but then my body was regressing to that of a child because I didn't have hormone balance. And I didn't have no therapy to touch this subject but whole. They just wanted to talk about, it's a shame that people don't accept you in society because, you're caught in the middle. And I would talk about being confused. I had brought up to him when I started growing breasts, because after I got the blocker in, I kind of started developing in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I told him that I wasn't really sure that I wanted those exactly. Just had a concern with masculinizing because it was the body hair and the changes in my bones and things that were kind of scaring me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, we can talk about that," and would never bring it up again. And if I would try, it would just, whatever. That's what it was like. I was just kind of always put aside.
Right. You didn't feel heard. Is that what I'm hearing? You never feel heard from the doctors. They sort of overrode how you were feeling.
Yeah, but my mom would try to speak up, and he would get all offended. Like, when I was experiencing medical issues, he would get offended and say, like, that's not my area of expertise.
What?
So that felt awkward bringing anything to him. And, to this day, we've hardly had any contact. I think we've had, like, one email back and forth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that your endocrinologist?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm at a loss for words right now because, first off, that is such malpractice on so many fucking levels. A doctor cannot be working with a person like you and I and then all of a sudden say that's out of my expertise level. What? You shouldn't even be touching a trans person. If anything,
because I was confused with the genitalia. That was inappropriate.
Still needs to know what the hormones are going to do. Let me say,
I was a part of studies for trans kids on blockers. I would get an email a month, and I would, write how I'm feeling and all that. But when I wasn't feeling so great in the long term, and I had all these questions, and I wasn't getting help, they stopped asking me.
They just stopped asking you.
I haven't gotten an email since November of 2019.
Fucking hell, man. Fucking hell. People out there, this is what young young trans people are going through. These doctors who are putting up a label on their door that says trans doctor, trans therapists, they're all jumping on a bandwagon without any goddamn training. You can't just be a trans doctor because you say you're a fucking trans doctor. Should I say I'm a fucking trans doctor? Because it's basically the same thing. I'm gonna go put a fucking sign on my door. I probably know more about trans medicine than many of these fucking trans doctors. It's infuriating. This is a young person right here, a fucking young who has a future ahead of them that has been fucking jacked up on some level, because we are not paying the fuck attention, people. This cannot happen. This person has a huge amount of compassion for our community to sit here and tell us about her experiences, her horrible, fucked up experiences. And we're still pushing this shit on youngsters. I will not be a part of this shit. And I will expose it as best I can because beautiful people like Scarlett are willing to have this conversation. Fuck off.
Yeah, and that's why I came to you. Because when I've tried to speak about my confusion and, you know, other areas, I would always get like shouted out or excluded from like LGBT groups. I can't, because my experience.
That's weird.
I don't know why, but I can't talk about this confusion or this what I've or like in society, like when people are uncomfortable around me or won't speak to me, and I find out it's because they're uncomfortable to like approach me how we're represented, and you know.
That's right.
And the school set up to help us at all. They like I wasn't passing at all when I enrolled in high school, and they were pushing me into female restrooms like I couldn't even use nurses, and because they up myself. I eventually won that fight because it made no sense, but it's because they think that they're trying to help us, but it only got me put in this awkward place where like I could probably count on both my hands the amount of times that I've had a peer or, you know, like it just with the way that things are represented now and the way that I was treated by the medical community, it feels like you're completely cut off. And I don't know.
No, I see your pain. It's gonna make me cry again. I see your pain, friend. It's not okay. You when you go to a doctor for what we have, which is dysphoria, and it's why I get so pissed off when we have this community saying you don't need dysphoria to be trans. You know, fuck off. Trans is a goddamn problem. It is not. It's a means and a way to get to be a better person. It's a fucking problem. And when we start medicalizing and we start doing all this shit, you now have to be medicalized for the rest of your fucking life.
And I wasn't told that. You know, I knew that I was told that I could always go back at any time, but I was doing some research because recently I'm 5 years almost, and I'm having like pain and stuff, and I learned that your stuff can atrophy after so long.
That's right.
Told this. I was told that I would be sterile, and you know, I was already gay, so I was like, well, I'm gonna adopt anyways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a bother, but you know, with things not maturing correctly and possibly even atrophying, so then even if I go back, I would have to live my life as a eunuch, and they didn't talk to you about any of the social repercussions of being caught in the middle. You know, I'm not accepted into society at all. I mean, people can try to be nice, but like it's the exact awkward existence that I was trying to avoid as a feminine gay guy. And whenever I would have these concerns, like no one would address me.
This should have never happened to you, ever. It is. I have never looked back. It has been my life. It saved my life. And when I hear stories like yours, I just cannot believe that we are having this fucking conversation. It's killing me. I'm trying to keep it together. It's killing me because there is no way a young person of your age should ever be in this position. And shame on everybody out there in this fucking community who thinks they're saving kids' lives. I am bringing you a real life child here who just tells you right now that their life has been ruined. Fucking ruined because you people think you know what's better for me and her. You don't know shit. None of you people know shit out there. This kid is now suffering, but she has the fucking goddamn fucking compassion to bring her story to the world, to save another fucking child. I hate it. I hate it so much. It kills me. You know, I just want to hug you and I want to tell you that I love you and I want to tell you that it's going to be okay. But I can't necessarily make that happen for you. And so it just kills me. It kills me, to be on. I can't even say how much it hurts me. I think you might be able to feel it, but you know, I just can't stand it. I can't stand that we have to have this conversation. And I can't stand that people don't hear you. And I can't stand that people in our community ostracize you because you're not the right kind of trans. And I just can't believe it. I can't. It's shocking.
Some of that ostracization
Yes. Yes.
came out later on because I was like, I didn't understand the concept of gender identity. That just wasn't my experience.
Yeah.
And
that's right. Because you know, you could have possibly, you could have just been a gay dude or a feminine, possibly. I'm not saying that you are any of that, but they didn't even give you the goddamn space to explore that.
Well, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know where I'm at now. When I go out into the world, I don't have the ability to explore and find that because, you know, I have male features because I don't want surgery. That was another thing they were trying to like sell to us, was surgery. They assume that you're going to get all of them. So like they would try to push surgery. They would advertise it like, well, like you'll need this if you want to fully, like, you might not be happy with it now, but you will later.
Oh my God. But what surgery were they trying to give you? Facial construction or?
All of them. Because I have Adam's apple pointed out my trachea, my chin, because it's kind of square.
Wait a minute. I'm just going to pause you for one moment here. And I'm going to tell you this. You are a woman. You look like a woman. You feel like a woman to me. You're very beautiful. You're passing, whatever the fuck. You know, all of it. Whatever you were trying to achieve to live female, you did. You achieved it. You 100% walk the world as a woman.
I was just trying to figure myself out, and now I'm able to, because, you know, I do have some male features, but now I have, you know, wider hips because I started hormones so young that my skeletal structure wasn't necessarily like frozen in time yet. So my hips, like, if I can
let's see. That would be
that at like wider. Can you see that?
Yes, totally. So that's actually
my bone because I don't have any fat on me. I'm a 00, and that's my that.
So when they freeze your puberty, they also freeze the growth. So then when you start to take the hormones, that start to mold your body into a more female form. Is that what's happening?
That was the idea.
So creepy. It sounds creepy, and it sounds very fucking artificial intelligence. It just sounds so futuristic bullshit that we're just gonna mold your body into this way that is feminine enough for you. But we don't know. But the key here, friend, we don't know what we're doing. But we're gonna make sure you fucking get this. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Wow. I mean, we need studies. Here's what I need to ask you now. Studies. Are you a person who believes that we need more studies about hormone blockers before we start to move forward with children?
I was a part of those studies at the hospital. I said, I was a part of those studies at the hospital. I was going to be one of the kids that they were going to check on long term.
Wow.
But I wasn't working out, I guess. I don't know what it was. They just stopped reaching out to me.
Mm-hmm. They just stopped reaching, because you're not the right kind of trans, friend. You were probably making, saying things that they didn't want to fucking hear, so they just pushed you up here. And they're bringing in all the people who are eating the ideology. They're eating, yeah.
They wanted to make it all about clothes, and I never really... Are you still there? My phone's messing up.
Yeah, no. Don't worry. It's the internet. Yeah, okay, we're here. Just find another spot.
Why it's doing that? It's because I'm by the beach.
Right. But while you're getting there, because the internet sucks across the world, I want everybody to follow her. Please follow her. Please, we need to give her love. We need to really raise her voice into the world. We need to help her figure out how her voice can really begin to help.
If interest, follow me. I'm not really doing this to like get attention. I know that kind of be out there. That's why I wanted to use your platform, so that I could get this out on your platform. I had a following.
I want everybody to follow you. I'm sorry, but I want everybody to follow you because I like you. It has nothing to do with this story. I like you. I think you're an awesome person. And I think the more that you get connected to the community that I'm connected to, because I'm connected to an awesome part of this community, beautiful, amazing people who will not bully you. So that's what I'm...
Really what I was looking for when I tried to look in the LGBT community before, but everything was... It keeps shutting off for some reason.
We're losing you again. It's just the internet. It's
so frustrating, though, because I'm trying to talk.
I know.
But yeah, what I was trying to look for in the community was, people like you that I could talk to, and maybe that would, like, I don't know, coming to understand other people has always helped me reflect better on myself. But all that I found in the community were mostly either, at least in the trans part, they were all teenagers younger than me who had no idea what they were doing. Most of them were girls who didn't like their breasts because they were like too big, or they were causing issues. That was a big thing in my what few friend groups I've been in for a minute. It's usually people just off about themselves, and they fixate on that. And then you have this group that's telling them that it's dysphoria, and if you do this, then it's like it'll solve that. And that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have, because it won't. Nothing's going to solve it until you start to understand what's going on in your brain. We don't even have mental health care attached. You can walk into Planned Parenthood, say you're trans, and start hormones the same day. Where's the mental health care?
Yep, and I started transitioning shortly before that, when they had required mental health care, but the mental health care you got either stirred you in a certain direction, or the therapist hardly bothered to even help you figure anything out. They just kind of this is what I get with what few good therapists I've had. They just have me ramble around in circles, because they really can't touch this topic, because, if they would offend... I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry, friend. Don't do that. Women are taught to...
Because it keeps blacking out on my screen.
I know. It's okay, then. Don't worry. It's okay.
But, yeah.
So let me ask this. Where are you at now? And how old are you now?
I'm 18.
18.
I don't have a life. Because I wasn't accepted to my peer groups. I mean, I have some online friends. I had dropped out of high school 2 years ago to get my GED, but I had so many issues. It took me a year to get around to it, and then COVID happened 3 days before I was taking my test.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to take it. So I'm just home. Sometimes I try to go out. You stand out when you're in the middle, and I was never talked to about any of that, and it puts you in a real awkward position where people really don't know how to interact with you, and especially nowadays where they think that by saying the wrong thing they'll make you mad. So most people kind of give fly looks, which just uncomfortable. So I just kind of
it breaks my heart. My heart is broken because there's no need for you to feel that way. You should just be walking in the world and just be that. But I also think the pushback from the trans community and the desire to make people accept us, whether they believe it or not, has pushed people against us. Not everyone's going to agree with what we do, and not everyone's going to use pronouns. They're like, fuck you. You can't.
That was part of my point in the GSAs. Like, you're arguing about the last things that I would think about.
Right.
I'm not thinking about bathrooms. Like, I'm fine using the.
That's right.
It's just ridiculous because they've made people afraid of us, and now, like, I'm stuck in that awkward place where I don't know where I am, and like I won't be able to figure it out. I've tried to like meet people to like see if like I could be a gay guy because I don't running away from myself, and I don't want to stay in this awkward place. I just kind of did this because I wanted a normal life, and I can't. Like, I'm not really welcome in many spaces, and because my puberty was paused, what few people do want to meet with me usually are not the most savory people, and that's been a thing throughout the whole time I've been on this. Like, no one really talks to you, so like the only people I've really had were like, what. It's not fun.
So no, it's not.
All the social.
Are you? Mm-hmm. It's heartbreaking on so many levels. But let me say this: you're 18. Thank God you're not 50.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now. You're going to be okay, kiddo. You're going to be okay because I found you and you found me. And I will make every effort to help however I can so that you can get out of that slump. It's why I'm here. It's why I'm Tranpa. I cannot stand to watch young kids be in a space that you're in when you don't need to be in that space. You're just lost right now. And people know.
Like they just swept you up into something like a conveyor belt of treatment and then just left
That's
you
right. That's right. And they fucking dropped you off. You're right. And said, figure it the fuck out. We now used you for what we for because they did. I'm sorry to say this, but they used you in order to figure out whatever they're fucking using us for, experiments. And so part of the experiment, my friend. That's right.
Well, they told me that what I'm doing was partially experimental. That's how I was entered in some studies. But God. Yeah.
But at your age, let me ask you this. When they said you're going to be entered into some studies, did you even understand what that meant? What does that even mean?
Well, I was always kind of a nerd, so I understood, but for me, it's more the fact that they didn't keep up with me over time, and there was no like they would try to call me a few times here and there, but like eventually they stopped trying to keep in touch with me.
Which is really interesting to me and really fucked up because that's where you need them more than ever. More than ever is when the follow-up, that's when you actually need them. You don't need them specifically when this is like getting done. You need them for that follow-up. They need to watch you. They need to understand your mental health care. They basically told you to fuck off.
Yeah. Yep.
Did you hear that? told her to fuck off once they were done with her. And then that she's a youngster. She's not fucking 80 years old. She's 18 with her whole life ahead of her. And now she has to deal with some fucked up medical trans medicine. Trans medicine. It's all fucking.
I never got to like the root of my discomfort, so I'm.
That's right.
Horrified
because
mental health, but
you know they
take on them.
It's so frustrating. It's fucked up. So today you take hormones. Are you on a regular hormonal treatment?
Yeah, I have estrogen and progesterone.
Okay.
They didn't put me on a testosterone blocker after I had my blocker out because I did get some like testosterone back.
Okay.
But it doesn't really like, it's not really fighting to like, you know, take over. It's just
no, need it. You actually need it. You know, I take some estrogen. You have to do that in order, because
that's my point to them. That was why I was losing all that muscle mass so
that's
quickly,
right.
And they weren't acknowledging that. They wanted to be like, well, that must just be something else.
Oh my God, are they idiots? I'm not even a doctor, and I know. You know that?
Well, over this time, I've had issues with my kidneys. I've had all sorts of things, and when I bring it up to them, they're like, "Well, that's not in my area. Like, I shouldn't be talking to them about this stuff." But I'm taking meds that, you know,
is their job. My friend, it's like taking your car into a mechanic, and the mechanic is working on your car, and he gets to the carburetor or whatever, and he said, "Oh, that's actually out of my expertise." Like, what? Then why are you working on my fucking engine, buddy? Like, figure it out.
Was because he focuses on the endocrine system. That's what he specializes in. So, but then he could just because is a professor, so like he could just refer me to somebody else.
That's right.
But it took pressuring for that. And then when that didn't work because this other person didn't know how to treat me because I was trans.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't get any follow-up. I was just kind of brushed off. I was acknowledged and bypassed for 5 years.
Disgusting. You're a human being. You're a fucking human being with a future. And they're fucking with your body. And they fucked with your body. Why did they fuck with your body? They fucked with your body because they wanted to figure out what to do in this situation. They used you. They fucking used you and threw you out when they didn't need you anymore. And that's what they are doing.
We're doing a good thing, but they, you know, when I was expressing concerns and they didn't address that, that's where they went wrong, I feel like.
I mean, I'm just at a loss here because, you know, the world better fucking hear this, and the world better fucking start paying attention to transgender medicine and stop listening to all those crazy people out there who are the TRAs of our community. They don't speak for what's right. They're not listening to you. They're not listening to me. They're listening to the medical world because the medical world is throwing some fucking money at some fucking people. And that's the problem here. This is all monetized. We've been monetized.
Well, I feel like it's the medical world, and it's also older trans people. So, like, when I would check other trans women around here, I'm the only young, like, TS in my town. Everybody else is, like, they're all, male to female are mostly, like, people in their mid-40s to, like, 50s, and they all transition much later in life. And I feel like a lot of them envy me for that. So they're the really pushing for it, but I also I don't know, I didn't really relate to any of them also, so I was also like, well, I don't know if you should be pushing this if people like me are being caught up in it, or vice versa. I don't know, because I'm so confused still.
They're not even listening to you. They don't care. That's the problem with what's happening in the trans community. They care about themselves, and they only care what they need, and they only care about their future. They don't care about the whole future of our community. Not the same. Where none of us are, me and you are not the same. We have the same space up here, but we are not the same in what we need. And those fucking people are dangerous. Those trans talking about are dangerous because they're misleading. They're misleading the world on trans health. That's not true.
have an experience that differs from what they're saying, they slander you.
That's right. Why do you think they come after me? Why do you think they hate me so much? Because I'm here with you. And they don't want this to be seen by the world. And here's what I'm going to say to all you people out there who keep trying to stop my voice. Fuck you, because I have her and a million other fucking people who actually give a shit. So again, I'm going to say it. Fuck you. I'm not shutting up. I will never shut up. I will never stop talking about this. And I will never bring people like you, it's going to make me cry, into this space. Because if you actually care about this community, you care about her. And she is the voice of the fucking future. My ass is going to die pretty soon. These people are the ones that need to be lifted to talk about the future of trans healthcare. So fuck all those people out there who keep trying to block your voice and block my voice. Because we are the voice that needs to be heard. Not these people who are only giving a shit about themselves. Go fuck yourself. That's not a community, my friend. And that's why those people don't like you. They don't like me. Our friends. And they can go fuck off. There. How about that?
Yeah, because that's just not how you treat mentally ill kids.
That's not. I won't be a part of it. I refuse to be a part of it. I'm a happy trans guy for a reason, because I found my space. You, on the other hand, should have never been treated that way. But I love you, and I feel as you are part of my family, and I will take care of you because I believe that you are put in a space that should have never been put into. And that's gross. It affects my transition. It affects my transition.
It does. Yeah, I worry, like, because I'm still in a place where I don't know where I am, but, like, if this was the wrong decision for me and it's the wrong decision for so many other kids, then what's going to happen to actual trans kids? Because, I mean, I understand how discomfort can be, and if mine wasn't true dysphoria, then I could definitely see where actual dysphoria would be a very real struggle. And I worry about how those kids will be treated after there's so many kids either confused like me, or, you know, if I decide to detransition, so many detransitioners, I worry, you know, will actual trans kids be revoked?
Yes, they will.
Does that make sense?
To bring detransitioners and transitioners together. If we don't come together, they will take everything from all of us. I refuse to let my medicine be taken away from me. I fucking refuse. That being said, that we are using children, and we cannot do this. This is wrong behavior. These kids need to find their own space. There's kids out there detransitioning who've already done top surgery, have had hysterectomies. They're 18 years old. Their whole life is fucked up. And everyone's just like, let's not talk about detransitioners.
They were trying to get me to work after me at 16.
Dude, I can't even stand it. You know, we need to give some goddamn compassion to these kids. They were duped. They were duped into a space that should have never been. And how dare we just throw them aside like nothing? That's not how you take care of your own people. You don't do that shit. And you help people find their space. But we're letting people transition just because they say they're trans. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's like saying I have cancer and I don't really have cancer, but I'm going to go get cancer treatments because I have cancer, but I really don't have cancer. Like, what?
Or like saying you have autism and demanding to get, you know, treatment for that,
which is happening.
Because like, now they're saying, I can say that from being exposed to that early on. That treatment just didn't fit. And I just think that it's horrible. There's so much misdiagnosis going on in psychology in general, though, because I've experienced that not only with being trans, but just in general my whole life. It's like kids can just be written off and made into a commodity.
That's right. That's right. Now we're a commodity. We're monetized. I tell it every day. I tell people, go to Money Watch or whatever it is. It's a site to for your money stocks. They're like saying invest in trans surgery. It'll be a $5 billion industry in 5 years. They're long
run. That's what they would tell me a lot.
But they don't need that. guessing. There is no long-term studies on that. And we have a person here who asked this. Did you not try therapy? Answer that question, my friend.
My life, I've been in therapy since I was like 4, and they just jumped to different phase diagnoses, one of them being trans for me.
Because why? You went to a gender therapist. She went to a gender therapist, which is a therapist, right?
Normal therapists will refer you to those therapists now because they specialize in it.
That's not right. That's not right. Because that therapist now, who's a gender therapist, is only focusing on your gender stuff when it could be a million things happening for you at 16. 16-year-old kids go through bullshit. It's hard to be 16. Like, it's not an easy space for anybody.
Well, and this was all being gone through when I was younger than 16. That was 13 to 14 that we were talking about that. We were in touch with the surgeon when I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
The earliest that they would be willing, that he was willing to do it. My endo and the other gender therapists were willing to write off for me to have that surgery.
Wow.
When I was 14, but the surgeon himself wanted to wait until I was at least 16.
I mean, do you really understand how young that is? Do we all here understand how young that is for somebody to be having a surgery, a actual, completely irreversible surgery? Irreversible. I don't understand why people aren't understanding the real magnitude of that. When you cut off a 16-year-old's breasts or you remove the genitals of a 16-year-old, it is irreversible. How can we even be okay with that at such early age? I don't get it. Let the kids suffer a little bit. Suffering is a different
character.
And on some level, it's the reality of the world. You know, back when I transitioned, you had to live as a man for 2 years. And that means I had to
that I had to do that, but they just didn't make me.
They made me, and it was the best thing that ever happened because I never looked back. I actually got to try the car. I got to drive the car. You drive the car before you buy it, don't you? You don't buy the car because you saw it on the internet. You fucking drive that thing. So how can you drive your transition if you're not even giving any time to it prior to doing surgery? It's ridiculous.
Well, and they encourage you to stay in isolation because the world is so cool.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
You're kidding me. They told you to isolate?
Well, yeah. Remember they pulled my mom out of the room and they were like, that's what that was about. They encourage your views that the world is just so scary for trans people that you don't really want to get out in the world. And when you're an insecure kid who's, you know, struggling with all that discomfort already, and now your body is changing in, you know, ways that aren't very normal for it, then, you know, you're uncomfortable getting out in the world as it is. So then that encourages you to stay inside. And then when you try out, then people are weird towards you because I don't want to offend you, or I look like a twink with breasts who has the body of an adolescent boy.